The film begins with two Soviet astronauts working on the Saylut space station, the Soviet Union's orbiting substation. These astronauts had been repairing a damaged part of the station for more than 4 hours. Because of the long hours they had spent outside, Mission Control told them to return to the space station. An unfortunate accident occurred as they finished their work and were on their way home. A nail punctured one of the astronauts' gloves, creating a hole. This resulted in the slow release of oxygen from his spacesuit. When he saw this, his partner, Vladimir, rushed to help. He managed to get Lays back inside the station, but as Vladimir followed, he was distracted by a flashing light. This brief moment caused a delay in closing the door, unknowingly endangering Lays' life. Fortunately, after some time, both Vladimir and Laz returned safely to Earth. However, due to Vladimir's mistake in space, a doctor declared him unfit for future space missions. This news struck Vladimir hard. He went home feeling defeated and sad. When he finally saw his wife, Nina, she was overjoyed. But after so many years in space, his mental state was fragile, and he had forgotten even basic facts, such as how gravity works. One day, without thinking, he threw a glass off the balcony, unaware of the consequences. After some time, we returned to the space station, which is now controlled by Russian scientists from the Soviet Union, who manage everything remotely from Earth. However, when the station is hit by an asteroid, things get dangerous. This impact causes significant malfunctions, and the scientists soon lose complete control of the station. The situation quickly becomes critical, as the space station is now on track to collide with Earth. The news of the Soviet Union's loss of control spreads quickly around the world, raising widespread concern. People all over are concerned because they don't know where the station will land or what kind of damage it will cause. Vladimir sees this breaking news, which includes reports that Russian scientists are already planning a daring rescue mission to retake control of the station before it crashes. The rescue plan calls for another spacecraft to dock with the malfunctioning station and bring it back under control. During all of this, we see Vladimir and his friend Victor fishing. Victor, like Vladimir, is an astronaut. They are conversing and enjoying themselves when a man from the Russian Space Agency approaches them. He tells Victor that he has been chosen for the upcoming rescue mission. Victor leaves with the man and eventually arrives at the Space Agency headquarters, where he meets Valerie, the head of the control room. Valerie briefs Victor on the mission and explains that before he can launch into space, he must practice docking the rescue spacecraft with the space station using a simulation. Victor begins the simulation and tries his hardest to dock the spacecraft with the station, but he always fails. Valerie, the head of the control room, summons other astronauts and assigns them the same task, but none of them can successfully dock the moving spacecraft with the space station. The problem is that both the station and the spacecraft are moving at high speeds, making docking them an extremely difficult task. Valerie, frustrated by the lack of progress, decides to try the simulation himself, but he also fails. Docking two moving objects in space is much more difficult than expected, and the difficulty only grows as time passes. As the mission's dangers become more apparent, many astronauts refuse to participate in the rescue. With few options left, Valerie finally assigns the mission to Victor, but it is clear that the mission will require 2 people to complete. Victor meets with Vladimir to go over the details of the assignment, emphasizing how serious and dangerous it is. After some consideration, Vladimir decides to join the mission. Victor, who is both excited and anxious, tells his wife the news. She is pregnant and angry that he would put his life in danger on such an important mission. Meanwhile, Vladimir takes his wife, Nina, out to a restaurant to inform her of his decision to join the mission. Nina, who understands Vladimir's stress levels since his return from space, tries to persuade him not to go. She is concerned about his well-being, but Vladimir is adamant, and despite her pleas, he will not change his mind. Nina is upset, and she walks away from the dinner in anger. Despite their family conflicts, Victor and Vladimir join the mission. They are ready for launch now that their training is complete. Soon, both of them are launched into space, ready to face the enormous challenge ahead. Once their spacecraft is under the crew station's control, Vladimir and Victor must dock and repair the damaged space station. However, they only have 3 chances to successfully dock with the station. As they approach, the spacecraft nearly collides with the space station, narrowly avoiding disaster. The control room informs them that they have only 3 attempts to dock the spacecraft with the station. Following this tense moment, Victor, based on his calculations, instructs Vladimir to maintain a speed of 35 centimeters per second, or about 1 kilometer per hour. He warns that if they fail again, the space station may crash. The pressure is immense, but Vladimir tries another docking. After overcoming several challenges, Vladimir successfully docks the spacecraft with the station. Both men are relieved and overjoyed. Vladimir immediately informs Valerie in the control room, who spreads the good news to the rest of the team. The entire control room erupts in celebration. However, the mission is not yet completed. Vladimir and Victor still have to enter and repair the space station. Valerie, concerned about the mission's success, instructs Vladimir to stay on the spacecraft while Victor enters. Valerie believes that if Victor dies while inside the station, Vladimir will still be able to pilot the spacecraft and complete the mission. Victor opens the space station door and enters per Valerie's orders. Inside, he discovers the station in disarray. Everything is frozen. It turned out that the space station's water tank had burst, causing the freezing temperatures. Victor quickly relays this information to Vladimir, who chooses to accompany him inside the station, despite the dangers. After informing the control room of the situation, Vladimir and Victor realize they've been working non-stop for 24 hours. Exhausted and aware of the need for rest, they return to the spacecraft to recover before continuing their mission. Back in the control room, the team is brainstorming ways to safely return the space station to Earth. They devise a plan to melt the frozen ice inside the station and restart the entire system. The goal is to guide the station into a controlled descent and drop it into the Indian Ocean. However, this plan will require at least 10 days, and Vladimir and Victor only have enough supplies for 2 more days. Every time they open the station's door, the temperature inside their spacecraft drops dangerously low, potentially endangering their lives. Despite the risks, Valerie decides to proceed, giving Vladimir and Victor 5 days to complete their tasks within the station. If they don't finish in time, the mission will be aborted and the space station will be forced to crash into Earth. Vladimir and Victor begin work immediately. Their first task is to repair the station's solar panels so that power can be restored to the heaters. Without heat, the ice inside the station will never melt, and they will be unable to restart the system. After working for hours, they finally get the solar panels to work again, allowing the heaters to gradually raise the temperature inside the station. We see them carefully cleaning up the water droplets that had formed as the ice melted. As they finish cleaning, Vladimir surprises Victor with a bottle of wine he had secretly brought along. They're drinking and talking quietly when they notice something strange, a cockroach flying around inside the spaceship. It must have come aboard with them when they first arrived at the station. The presence of the insect adds an unsettling element to their already tense situation. Despite the challenges, Vladimir and Victor continue to work on the space station. But just as they are making progress, they encounter another problem. The station's gears stop working. Vladimir realizes he needs to go outside into space to fix some sensors on the solar panels. While out there, he discovers that one of the sensors is bent, preventing the panels from functioning properly. Meanwhile, inside the spacecraft, things get dangerous. As Victor monitors the systems, a drop of water accidentally lands on the circuit board, causing a short circuit and a fire. Victor acts quickly, depressurizing the spacecraft to put out the flames. However, the fire severely damages the system, making the situation critical. They now have no choice but to abandon their mission. The space station will have to crash into Earth, and the crew must return immediately. Victor is severely injured in the chaos, with half of his face burned during the fire. Meanwhile, NASA is launching spacecraft from Earth as part of its own rescue mission. However, inside the space station, Victor begins to have hallucinations. Believing that the Americans are coming to save him, he prepares to open the space station door, but Vladimir intervenes and stops him just in time. Back in the control room, Valerie and the other scientists realize the situation has deteriorated. The space station's oxygen supply is running dangerously low, with only a few hours of breathable air remaining. Faced with this grim reality, Valerie informs Vladimir that only one of them can be saved using the remaining oxygen. With no other options, the plan is devised to save Victor, and Valerie informs Vladimir that he will have to remain behind. Despite his desire to live, Vladimir agrees to sacrifice himself so Victor can return to Earth. Valerie arranges for Vladimir's wife, Nina, to visit the space agency for a final conversation with her husband. When Nina arrives with their daughter, she is overcome with emotion, crying as she speaks to Vladimir for what she believes will be the final time. Through her tears, she tells him that he cannot leave them and must return. In her frustration and heartbreak, she walks out of the room, unable to bear the thought of losing him. Valerie is filled with guilt and anger as he watches this unfold, reflecting on his impossible decision. He even throws a chair out of frustration. Meanwhile, back on the space station, Vladimir calmly explains to Victor that he must return to Earth alone. However, Victor refuses to abandon Vladimir and proposes a new plan. He suggests that they both go outside into space and attempt to repair the solar panels by removing the metal debris that is obstructing them. If they can get the solar panels to work again, they will be able to restore power to the station and produce enough oxygen for both of them to survive. Vladimir and Victor suit up and go outside to attempt the risky repair. They work together to remove the metal piece from the solar panels, but the panels continue to produce insufficient power. The sun sets, and both men bear the weight of their failure. They sit together, disappointed, talking about their families and contemplating their lives. However, as the temperature drops in the cold environment, Vladimir notices that the metal has become brittle. With renewed hope, he tries once more to remove the piece of debris, and this time it works. The solar panels reactivate, and the space station systems come to life. Power is restored, and the control room on Earth regains complete control of the station, preventing it from colliding with Earth. Both Vladimir and Victor were successful in their mission. As they celebrate, an American spacecraft passes by them. One of the astronauts on the NASA craft salutes them as they continue on their journey, recognizing their incredible accomplishment. Vladimir and Victor return a message to the control room, stating that everything is under control. The control room erupts with joy, and the film concludes on a triumphant note. All right, that's a wrap for today. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. It really helps the channel. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.